Hey YouTube, this is Mike, and I just wanted to share a short little snippet from this episode that I really enjoyed. However, if you want to listen to the full episode, either scroll down this post or head to mikejamesreid.com/podcast for the full episode. Thanks and enjoy. I thought I would maybe kick us off with a little bit of a left of field question, which is, what's one of the most fascinating things that you've learnt in the last 6 months that comes to mind?
The most fascinating thing that I've learned in the last 6 months. You start off with, you go deep into your questions, don't you?
Straight away. That's the nature of this show. Yeah. No fluffing around. And of course, the reason I asked this, and maybe you want to fill in the blanks, but from what a little bit of research I did online, I got the sense that you're an avid learner. Would that be true?
That's right.
So that's why, I was curious to ask you that question.
I think the most fascinating thing that I've learned recently is just about how when you ask the right question, it changes the entire tone and cadence and sort of the path of answers you go down. And so if you ask higher quality questions, you tend to get higher quality answers. And so really been working through that in all of the different conversations that I've been having, the questions that I've been asking myself for introspection as well. And it's simple things like, instead of asking a question that starts with the word why, just changing that to how can make a big difference. So instead of asking, why am I feeling this way? Or why did this happen? Just changing it to how might I, and then you fill in the blanks with whatever it is. So how might I change the way I'm looking at this? Or how might I get to know that person? You know, it's a shift in perspective. And I'd say the biggest thing that has been the unlock is just been finding and grasping better perspectives.
Where did you come across that change in perspective, or that sort of change in the question? How did that come about? I
was having a conversation with a mentor of mine, and he pointed me in the direction of a book called QBQ. And this book is, I think the title is basically the question before the question. And he was talking about how humans have this inbuilt habit of asking why and when, which are very charged questions that lead to some level of entitlement. And instead of asking that, ask questions that are what and how. So every time you're thinking, why is this happening? Or when will this other thing that I want happen? Replacing that with, what do I need to be doing to make that happen? And how might I be of service? Or how might I change the situation in the way I'm looking at it is a powerful way to shift your perspective. And that conversation was a jumping off point into thinking about that. And then I got to just thinking about, like, how often do I and the people around me, how often are we being introspective about our life and our business? And it turned out that wasn't a high percentage of time, especially because with everything that's going on around you on a day-to-day basis, you're more focused on the now as opposed to the future, and asking yourself some hard questions, not about just the easy things that are right in front of you, but sometimes the harder things that really do require some time and introspection to dive deep into. And so that was my journey and how I started that process.
What's your practice on asking yourself, better questions or reflection? Do you journal? What kind of things do you do around that?
I start off with journaling and just following the process of looking back at annual goals and then quarterly goals, and then looking at what I'm doing this week and even, this morning, and looking at, starting off with, like, what am I grateful for and what do I need to keep in mind about that? And then tracking how I'm feeling in terms of my overall level of happiness. Now, the way I ask that is a bit different. So rather than just asking a broad question like, am I happy? I ask myself, did I have a good day? And I actually track that over time. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, where I look at an app called Way of Life, which is just like a habit tracker. And I ask whether, did I have a good day? And it's green if I had a good day, and it's red if it isn't. And This was actually something that I'd learned from either a speech or some writing that Steve Jobs had put together, where essentially he was saying, like, on balance, if you have more bad days than good ones, it might be time to pause and reflect and look at how you're spending your time, your environment, the people around you, the type of work you're doing, the thoughts you're thinking, and so on. And so that's what made it of importance to track that. So I look at those habits. I do a daily journal. Gratitude is an important part of it. And then this is not, I'm guilty as probably anyone else related to the consistency of habits, but when it's possible to, and when I make the time for it, meditation seems to have a big unlock in focus and calm.
How long would you meditate for?
Not very long, surprisingly. So I only do a 10-minute meditation, and I use the Muse headband for it.
What's the Muse headband?
So the Muse headband it's actually produced by a company in Toronto, and it's a headband that has EEG feedback. So I'll put it in layman's terms. It essentially, one of the big problems that people struggle with when meditating is they think to themselves, am I doing this right? I'm closing my eyes, I'm breathing in and out. Depends on whether you're chanting something or not. But this concept of, I don't know if I'm competent at this, seems to come up a lot. And that can actually gnaw at you as you meditate. It can stop your meditation practice. So what this company's done is they built this headband that essentially gives you feedback based off your brainwaves. And when you are in that state of calm, the feedback loop is where you can hear birds chirping. And it's like a very light chirping in the background, so it's not distracting in any way. But it just tells you that you're calm. So effectively, it's a positive feedback loop where when you hear that, it actually encourages you to be even more calm as part of your meditation practice. And so I think we all look for ways to know that the time and effort that we're investing in things is directionally moving in the right way, and it's getting us the result that we want. And so, especially if you're a beginner meditator, and that's certainly where I consider myself, I'm not one of those people who can just get into a meditative sort of mode without the need for an external sort of either device or guided meditation like that. Power be to the people who are the power practitioners, if you will, of meditation. But a device like this is just a really good way of starting, and then as you grow in your practice, you may or may not want to use something like this moving forward.